I never thought I would see the day when betrayal would come knocking at my door in such a raw, undeniable way. That night started like any other ordinary evening. I was restless, my mind tangled in the quiet hum of the city, wondering why life sometimes feels like a jigsaw puzzle missing its most crucial pieces. I had an uneasy feeling that had been brewing for weeks, subtle signs that I had been too blinded by routine and love to notice. She was always a little distant lately, distracted by endless texts, hushed laughter over the phone, and sudden excuses to step out for fresh air. My gut told me something wasn't right, though I told myself I was being paranoid. But as I drove past the dimly lit motel on the outskirts of town, something inside me hardened, a quiet resolve that I needed to see for myself what she had been hiding. When I pulled into the nearly empty lot, I saw her car parked outside, a car that usually never left my driveway without me knowing, and my heart sank as I realized I had been waiting for a truth I was barely ready to face. I watched her slip out of the motel room, her expression betraying nothing yet somehow screaming every secret she thought she could bury. She moved casually, expecting the night to continue as it always did, expecting the world to revolve around her own deception. But when she returned to the parking lot, the moment her heels clicked against the asphalt and her eyes landed on the empty space where her car had been, the first crack in her armor appeared. Panic washed over her face, the kind that no amount of lipstick or bravado could hide, and I could almost hear the calculations running through her mind. Where could it have gone? Who could have done this? I watched silently, my pulse steady, my chest tight, but my mind clear. I wasn't there for vengeance yet. I was there to witness, to let reality finally pierce through the veil of lies she had so carefully crafted around our life. As she frantically searched the motel parking lot, dialing numbers she shouldn't have been calling in the first place, I knew the moment had come to follow her home. I didn't rush, I didn't need to. She was unraveling on her own, and the truth had a way of arriving unannounced. She drove with a mixture of fear and confusion, the streets echoing her sudden sense of vulnerability. When she finally arrived at our house, she expected the same emptiness, the same normalcy she had been counting on, but reality had other plans. The front door was ajar, a faint creak of hinges signaling that someone, or something, had been waiting for her. She stepped inside, and the faint smell of freshly cut flowers and candle wax greeted her, mingling with the eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. Her eyes scanned the living room, and that's when she saw it, our wedding photos, her favorite framed memories, but something was off. Everything was rearranged, carefully placed, as if someone had recreated our life in miniature just to mock her absence of integrity. And then, in the middle of the room, a letter lay on the coffee table, its edges crisp, its presence commanding her attention. She hesitated, fear battling curiosity, before finally picking it up, and the words burned into her like a branding iron. I had written it myself, every line carefully chosen, every detail a mirror of her actions and my observations over the months of betrayal. It wasn't filled with anger or curses, but with the quiet, undeniable weight of truth, the fact that I had known, the fact that every laugh, every stolen moment, had been seen, catalogued, and remembered. She sank to the floor, trembling, the reality of what she had done crashing down in waves that no amount of denial could survive. The home she had taken for granted, the life she had tried to manipulate, had been prepared to reflect her betrayal back to her. I wasn't there yet, I hadn't confronted her, but the house itself became a witness, a confessional of sorts, showing her in the starkest terms the emotional wreckage she had created, not just for me, but for herself. Her tears were quiet at first, almost imperceptible, but they grew, filling the room with a sorrow I had imagined countless times but had never truly wanted her to feel. And in that silence, I realized that revenge doesn't always need to roar. Sometimes, it whispers, and that whisper is louder than any scream. By the time I finally stepped into the room, the weight of her betrayal had already done its work. She looked up at me, her eyes swollen and red, a mixture of shame, regret, and disbelief reflected back in the mirror of my own steady gaze. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't throw the weight of my anger at her in a way she could deflect or excuse. I simply watched as the enormity of her actions settled over her like a shadow she could not escape. The car, gone from the motel lot, was just the beginning, a small, practical sting compared to the emotional hurricane that awaited her at home. Every choice she had made, every lie she had told, every hidden rendezvous had led to this singular, unflinching moment of reckoning. I guided her to the couch, not with tenderness, but with a quiet authority, letting her see that the life we shared, the love we built, was not a fragile toy she could break without consequence. In her tears, I saw the reflection of her own failures, and I knew that this was more powerful than any confrontation I could have staged in anger. I had let her face herself, let her witness the gravity of her actions, and now, there was no escape. She couldn't hide behind excuses, couldn't blame the moment or the circumstances. The truth was laid bare, and the house, our home, had become the stage for her own awakening. Hours passed in silence, the only sound being the soft trickle of her remorse and the occasional creak of the floorboards as she moved, unsure where to place herself in the wreckage of trust she had so carelessly dismantled. And in that stillness, I understood something crucial. Revenge isn't about destruction, isn't about humiliation, it's about revealing the truth in such a way that the guilty cannot escape themselves. She had sought freedom in deceit, but what she found instead was clarity, the kind that comes when reality refuses to be ignored. And as she finally curled up in the corner of the room, her sobs echoing softly against the walls, I realized that some betrayals are so profound that their consequences don't need my hands at all, they deliver themselves, meticulously, with a precision only time and truth can achieve. That night, she learned that what is stolen can sometimes be returned in a form far heavier, far deeper than material things. She learned that trust, once shattered, leaves an imprint that no apology or explanation can erase. And I, standing silently in the doorway, knew that in letting her discover this herself, I had delivered a reckoning far more lasting than any act of rage ever could. Did this story touch your heart? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more hearts can feel these stories too.